How would you feel if you woke up to find legal documents on your kitchen table, all because of one night out? What if your husband, the man you thought would always forgive you, suddenly became the one holding all the evidence? Can one night of fun really destroy a marriage, or is there always more to the story? The bass thumped through my chest as I pressed closer to the stranger's body, his hands finding my waist with practiced ease. The lights of Pulse Nightclub painted everything in electric blues and purples, and for the first time in months, I felt alive. "You're amazing," Toby shouted over the music, his breath warm against my ear. He was the bartender here, all lean muscle and easy smiles, the kind of guy who made you forget you had responsibilities waiting at home. "I know," I laughed, spinning away from him before pulling him back. The alcohol made everything feel weightless, like I was floating above my boring suburban life. My phone buzzed in my clutch. Ethan again. I could practically see his worried face, probably sitting on our beige couch in his pajamas, wondering where his wife had gone. The thought made me roll my eyes. "Everything okay?" Toby asked, noticing my distraction. "Just my husband being clingy," I said, louder than necessary. "He wants me home for some lame family movie night." Jenna appeared beside us, her blonde hair wild from dancing. "Vesper, you are not going home yet. It's only midnight." "I wasn't planning on it," I assured her, shoving my phone back into my purse without reading Ethan's message. "I'm having too much fun." And I was. For the first time in 7 years of marriage, I felt like myself again. Not Ethan's responsible wife, not Chloe's dutiful mother, just Vesper. The woman who used to turn heads, who used to dance until dawn, who used to be interesting. Toby's hand slipped lower on my hips as we moved to the rhythm. "You don't seem like the married type," he said, his lips brushing my neck. "Tonight I'm not," I replied, surprising myself with my boldness. The crowd pressed around us, bodies moving in perfect synchronization with the pounding beat. I caught glimpses of other couples, other people living their lives without permission, without checking in, without explaining themselves to anyone. "Vesper," Jenna grabbed my arm, phone in hand. "We need a group photo. This night is too perfect not to document." Before I could protest, she was pulling me and several other people together, Toby's arm still wrapped around my waist. The flash went off multiple times as Jenna captured our wild hair, flushed faces, and the unmistakable intimacy between Toby and me. "I'm posting these everywhere," she announced, already typing on her phone. #living our best lives. My phone buzzed again, then again. I ignored it, losing myself in the music and Toby's attention. When he suggested we get some air on the club's back patio, I didn't hesitate. "You're different from most married women I meet," he said as we stepped outside, the cool night air hitting my overheated skin. "How so?" "Most of them are guilty about having fun. You're not." He was right. I didn't feel guilty. I felt liberated. Ethan had been so distant lately, buried in his accounting work, treating me more like a roommate than a wife. When was the last time he'd looked at me the way Toby was looking at me now? "My husband doesn't understand me," I found myself saying. "He thinks I should be content staying home, playing house, pretending I don't have dreams of my own." Toby nodded sympathetically. "That's rough. You deserve better." Yes, I thought, I do deserve better. We talked for another hour, his attention like a drug I'd forgotten I needed. He listened to my complaints about Ethan's boring routine, his lack of spontaneity, his way of making me feel like I was asking for too much when all I wanted was to feel alive. "He's probably texting you right now, isn't he?" Toby asked, noticing my phone's constant buzzing. "Probably," I sighed. "He gets paranoid when I'm out past 10. That's not normal, you know. My ex never tried to control me like that." Control. The word hit me like a revelation. That's exactly what Ethan was doing. Controlling me, limiting me, keeping me small and manageable. When Toby leaned in to kiss me, I didn't pull away. It was just a kiss, I told myself. Just a moment of feeling desired and free. It didn't mean anything. But even as I thought it, I knew I was lying. By the time Jenna found us, it was nearly 3 in the morning. "We should probably head out," she said, though she was grinning at the scene she'd interrupted. "Already?" I felt like Cinderella being told it was midnight. "Daryl's been texting me. He says Ethan's been messaging him too, asking if we're okay." The mention of my husband's name brought reality crashing back. "He's such a control freak," I muttered, but some of the magic had already leaked out of the night. Toby walked us to our Uber, slipping his number into my phone while Jenna was distracted. "Text me," he said. "I'd love to see you again." As we drove through the empty streets, Jenna chatted excitedly about the night, but I was already composing my story for Ethan. I'd been networking with colleagues from the hospital. We'd lost track of time. Nothing happened. It wasn't really lying, I reasoned. It was protecting his feelings, and protecting my newfound sense of freedom. My phone had 17 missed calls and 23 unread messages. I deleted them without reading most of them, but the last one made my stomach clench. "We need to talk." I crept into our house at 3:47 a.m., my heels in my hand and my heart hammering. The living room was dark, but I could see the blue glow of Ethan's laptop from the kitchen. He was waiting up. "Hey," I called softly, trying to sound casual and sober. "You're up late." Ethan appeared in the doorway, still fully dressed. His brown hair was messy like he'd been running his hands through it, and his usually kind eyes looked tired and worried. "Vesper, I was starting to think something had happened to you." "I'm fine," I said, setting my purse on the counter and avoiding his gaze. "Just lost track of time. You know how it is when you're catching up with friends." "Friends from work?" "Yeah, some nurses from the hospital. We went to that new place downtown." The lie came easily, mixed with just enough truth to sound believable. Ethan nodded slowly, but something in his expression made me nervous. "Jenna posted some photos on Instagram. You looked like you were having fun." My blood went cold. "You follow Jenna on Instagram?" "She tagged you. It showed up in my feed." He pulled out his phone and showed me the screen. There I was, pressed against Toby, his hands on my waist, both of us looking like we were about to devour each other. "It's just dancing, Ethan. God, you're being so paranoid." "Paranoid?" His voice was quiet, which somehow made it worse than if he'd been yelling. "Vesper, you told me you were networking with colleagues. This doesn't look like networking." "It was a group thing. Jenna invited some of her friends. I invited some of mine. That guy is nobody, just some random person who happened to be in the photo." Even as I said it, I could hear how weak it sounded. But what was I supposed to do? Tell him the truth? That I'd spent the night feeling more alive than I had in years, that a stranger had made me remember who I used to be. "You didn't answer any of my calls." My phone was in my purse. I couldn't hear it over the music. I moved past him toward the stairs, desperate to end this conversation. "I'm exhausted. Can we talk about this tomorrow?" Chloe waited up until 11 for movie night. She was really excited. The guilt hit me like a physical blow, but I pushed it away. "I'll make it up to her. We'll have a special day together this weekend." She cried herself to sleep, Vesper. She thought something bad had happened to you. "Don't you dare use our daughter to guilt-trip me," I snapped, whirling around to face him. "I'm allowed to have a life outside this house. I'm allowed to have friends and go out occasionally without getting the 3rd degree." Ethan's face crumpled slightly, and I felt a moment of satisfaction. Good. Let him see how unreasonable he was being. I was worried, and when I saw those photos show me dancing and having fun with friends. I'm sorry if that threatens you somehow, but I won't apologize for enjoying myself. "It doesn't threaten me, Vesper. It hurts me. There's a difference." His quiet pain should have moved me, but instead it just made me angrier. This was exactly what I was talking about. He was trying to make me feel guilty for finally feeling good about myself. "I'm going to bed," I announced. "We can discuss your insecurity issues tomorrow when I'm not exhausted." I left him standing in the kitchen and went upstairs, where I quietly checked on Chloe. She was sleeping peacefully, her dark hair spread across her pillow, and I felt another stab of guilt that I quickly suppressed. In our bedroom, I stripped off my club clothes and shoved them into the back of the hamper. In the bathroom mirror, I could still see the flush of excitement in my cheeks, the brightness in my eyes that had been missing for so long. Ethan was wrong to try to dim that light. A good husband would want his wife to feel beautiful and alive, wouldn't he? When I finally crawled into bed, Ethan was still downstairs. I could hear him moving around, the soft clicking of his laptop keyboard. Probably working as usual. He'd rather spend time with spreadsheets than with me. I closed my eyes and let myself remember Toby's hands on my waist, his whispered compliments, the way he'd looked at me like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. When was the last time Ethan had looked at me like that? The next morning, I woke up to an empty bed and the sound of Chloe's cartoons downstairs. My head pounded from the alcohol, and the events of the previous night felt surreal, like something that had happened to someone else. I found Ethan in the kitchen, making pancakes for Chloe. He looked up when I entered, his expression carefully neutral. "Morning," he said quietly. "Morning." I poured myself coffee and sat at the island, watching him work. He'd always been good at taking care of people. It was one of the things I'd loved about him when we first met. But somewhere along the way, his caretaking had started to feel suffocating instead of sweet. "Mommy!" Chloe ran over and hugged my legs. "Daddy said you were working late last night." "That's right, baby. Mommy had to help some people at the hospital." I smoothed her hair, avoiding Ethan's eyes. "Can we have our movie day today instead?" "Of course. What do you want to watch?" As Chloe chatted about her movie preferences, I noticed Ethan's phone buzzing repeatedly on the counter. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. "Everything okay?" I asked. "My mother's calling. Probably wants to know why you were out so late. Daryl mentioned it to her." "Great. Now his whole family would be gossiping about me." "What did you tell Daryl?" "Nothing, but he was worried when I kept texting him asking if you were okay." "You involved Daryl in our personal business?" "I was scared, Vesper. You weren't answering your phone, and I didn't know where you were or who you were with." His phone buzzed again. This time he answered it. "Hi, Mom." "No, everything's fine. She was out with friends." "I know, but..." He glanced at me, his expression pained. "Can I call you back later?" When he hung up, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. "Let me guess," I said. "She thinks I'm a terrible wife and mother." "She's just concerned about the family." "The family is fine, Ethan, or it would be if you'd stop making a federal case out of one night out." But even as I said it, I could feel something shifting between us, some invisible line that had been crossed. And despite my defiant words, a small part of me wondered if there was any way back. 2 weeks later, we were supposed to meet Jenna and Daryl for dinner at Romano's, our usual family restaurant. I'd been looking forward to it all week, a chance to prove to everyone, including Ethan, that our marriage was perfectly fine. "You sure you want to do this?" Ethan asked as we got ready. "Things have been tense lately." "Things are only tense because you're making them tense," I replied, applying my lipstick with more force than necessary. "This dinner will be good for us, normal, fun." The truth was, I needed this dinner. The past 2 weeks had been suffocating. Ethan had been watching me constantly, asking casual questions about my day, my coworkers, my plans. His mother had called 3 times, each conversation ending with Ethan looking more stressed. Even Chloe seemed to sense something was wrong, clinging to me more than usual. I'd texted with Toby a few times, nothing serious, just friendly messages that made me smile. But I'd been careful to delete them immediately. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but Ethan was in such a paranoid state that he'd probably misinterpret innocent friendship. At the restaurant, Jenna and Daryl were already waiting in our usual booth. Jenna jumped up to hug me, her perfume and enthusiasm a welcome change from the tension at home. "Vesper, you look amazing. That color is perfect on you." "Thanks, babe. I needed to get out of the house." Daryl nodded politely at both of us, but I noticed he seemed uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with me and focusing on Ethan instead. "How's work been?" Daryl asked Ethan as we settled into our seats. "Busy. Tax season's always crazy." Ethan's voice was strained, and he kept glancing at me like he was waiting for something. "And how's the hospital, Vesper?" Jenna asked. "Any exciting drama?" "The usual chaos. You know how it is." I was grateful for her normal, friendly tone. At least someone was acting like nothing had changed. The conversation flowed easily enough through appetizers, but I could feel Ethan's tension radiating across the table. When Jenna brought up our night at Pulse, I saw my opportunity. "That was such a fun night," I said, smiling brightly. I felt like myself again for the first time in forever. "It was amazing," Jenna agreed. "We should do it again soon." "I don't know about that," Ethan said quietly. The table went silent. I felt my cheeks flush with embarrassment and anger. "Excuse me?" I turned to face him. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just, maybe we should focus on family time for a while." "Family time?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Ethan, I went out one night in months, and you're acting like I committed some crime." Daryl shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should order dinner." "No, let's talk about this," I said, my voice getting louder, since apparently my husband thinks he gets to decide when and where I'm allowed to have fun. "Vesper, that's not what I meant." "Isn't it? Because ever since that night you've been treating me like a criminal, checking my phone, asking where I'm going, making me account for every minute of my day." Jenna was staring at us with wide eyes. A few other diners had turned to look. Good. Let them see how unreasonable he was being. "I haven't checked your phone," Ethan said, his voice still maddeningly calm. "Only because I don't give you the chance. But you want to, don't you? You want to control every aspect of my life because you're so insecure you can't handle the thought of me talking to another human being. That's not fair." "Fair?" I was really warming up now. "What's not fair is being married to someone who's so boring and paranoid that he thinks his wife dancing at a club is somehow a betrayal. What's not fair is being made to feel guilty for having friends and a social life." The silence at our table was deafening. Jenna was looking back and forth between us like she was watching a tennis match. Daryl was staring at his hands. "You're right," Ethan said finally. "You should be able to go out and have fun. I'm sorry I made you feel otherwise." His quick capitulation should have felt like victory, but instead it just made me angrier. He was doing it again, making me look like the unreasonable one by being so damn understanding. "Don't patronize me, Ethan." "I'm not patronizing you. I'm trying to have a conversation." "No, you're trying to make me look crazy in front of our friends." Poor Ethan, stuck with his wild, irresponsible wife who wants to have fun occasionally. "Vesper," Jenna started, but I cut her off. "It's fine, Jen. This is what I live with. A husband who thinks wanting to feel attractive and alive makes me some kind of monster." I stood up abruptly, grabbing my purse. "I'm going to the bathroom. Try not to poison everyone against me while I'm gone." In the bathroom, I stared at myself in the mirror, my chest heaving with righteous anger. I was right to call him out. He needed to see how his behavior looked to other people. When I returned to the table, the atmosphere was even more strained. Daryl wouldn't look at me at all, and Jenna seemed subdued. "Everything okay?" I asked brightly, sliding back into my seat. "Fine," Ethan said, but his voice was different somehow, colder. The rest of dinner passed in awkward small talk. When we said goodbye in the parking lot, Daryl shook Ethan's hand and said something I couldn't hear. Jenna hugged me, but it felt perfunctory. "That went well," I said sarcastically as we drove home. Ethan didn't respond. He just stared straight ahead, his hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. "Are you going to give me the silent treatment now?" "I'm not giving you the silent treatment. I'm thinking." "About what?" "About a lot of things." Something in his tone made my stomach clench, but I pushed the feeling away. He'd get over it. He always did. And maybe now he'd understand that I wouldn't be controlled or made to feel guilty for living my life. But as we pulled into our driveway, I caught sight of his face in the rearview mirror, and for the first time, I wondered if I'd pushed too far. Monday morning at St. Elmo Hospital felt different. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Conversations that stopped when I walked by. Colleagues who seemed to avoid eye contact. A general sense that I was missing something important. It wasn't until I was grabbing coffee in the break room that I overheard two nurses talking. Saw the photos on Instagram. I mean, I'm not judging, but her poor husband, he seems like such a nice guy. And they have a little girl, don't they? They noticed me and quickly changed the subject, but the damage was done. My face burned with embarrassment and anger. How dare they gossip about my personal life? Ladies, I said coolly, pouring my coffee with deliberate calm. Slow morning. They mumbled something about getting back to work and scurried out, leaving me alone with my humiliation. The day only got worse. During my lunch break, my supervisor, Patricia Williams, called me into her office. Vesper, we need to talk about social media policy. My heart sank. What about it? Some photos have been circulating that show you in compromising situations. While you're entitled to your private life, we need to be mindful of the hospital's reputation. Compromising situations? Patricia, I was dancing at a club with friends. There's nothing inappropriate about that. The photos suggest otherwise, and several staff members have expressed concern about professionalism standards. I felt like I was in some kind of nightmare. Are you seriously disciplining me for going out on a Saturday night? I'm reminding you that as a hospital administrator, you represent this institution even in your personal time. I need you to be more mindful of what you post online. I didn't post anything. My friend did. Then I suggest you ask your friend to be more careful about tagging you in future posts. I left her office feeling like I'd been slapped. This was Ethan's fault somehow. His paranoid reaction had made everyone think something scandalous had happened, when all I'd done was have a good time. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. Your mother and I would like to have dinner this week. We need to talk. Great. Now my parents were getting involved too. The rest of the day crawled by. I could feel people watching me, whispering about me, judging me for crimes I hadn't even committed. By the time I got home, I was ready to explode. Chloe ran to greet me as usual, but even she seemed subdued. Mummy, why was Daddy sad this morning? Daddy wasn't sad, sweetheart. He was just tired. Mrs. Peterson asked if you were okay. She said she saw you on the computer and you looked upset. My blood went cold. Mrs. Peterson was our neighbor, a notorious gossip who probably knew about the photos too. How many people had seen them? How far had this spread? Ethan came home an hour later, looking exhausted. We moved around each other like polite strangers, making dinner, helping Chloe with homework, going through the motions of normal family life. After Chloe went to bed, I cornered him in the kitchen. Did you know people at work are gossiping about me? He looked up from his laptop, unsurprised. I figured they might be. You figured? Ethan, I got called into my supervisor's office today. She lectured me about social media policy because of some stupid photos. Maybe you should ask Jenna to take them down. That's not the point. The point is that everyone thinks something happened when nothing happened. And it's your fault for making such a big deal out of nothing. My fault. If you hadn't acted so suspicious and paranoid, no one would have thought twice about those photos. But because you freaked out, now everyone thinks I'm some kind of cheating wife. Ethan closed his laptop and looked at me directly for the first time in days. Are you? The question hit me like a physical blow. Am I what? Cheating. How can you even ask me that? Because you've been different since that night. Secretive, defensive. You delete your text messages now. I delete spam messages, Ethan, and I'm defensive because you've been treating me like a criminal. I went to Pulse last weekend. The words hung in the air between us like a bomb waiting to explode. You what? I talked to the bartender, Toby. He seemed to know you pretty well. My mouth went dry. You had no right to do that. I had every right. You're my wife. What did he tell you? Enough. I felt the walls closing in around me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Whatever he told you, it's not what you think. We talked, we danced, that's all. He said you kissed him. The lie came automatically. He's lying. But even as I said it, I could see in Ethan's eyes that he didn't believe me. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt genuinely scared. My phone buzzed with a text. Without thinking, I glanced at it. It was from Toby. Your husband came by the club. Thought you should know he's asking questions. Hope you're okay. Ethan saw me reading it, saw the name on the screen, saw my face go pale. Nothing happened, I whispered, but we both knew it was too late for that. I stared at Ethan across our kitchen table, the morning light making everything feel surreal and harsh. He'd been up all night. I could tell from the coffee cups lined up on the counter and the exhaustion in his eyes. We need to talk, he said quietly. I know. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Chloe was at my parents' house for the weekend, something Ethan had arranged yesterday while I was at work. At the time, I'd been grateful for the break. Now I realized it had been strategic. Ethan opened his laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was a folder labeled Evidence, with dozens of files inside. What is this? I asked, though my heart was already sinking. Photos from the club's security cameras, timestamps from your phone's location services, screenshots of social media posts, text messages. How did you get my text messages? We share a phone plan, Vesper. Everything backs up to the cloud. I felt sick. You've been spying on me. I've been trying to understand what happened to my wife. He clicked on the first file. It was a photo from the club's security camera, showing me and Toby on the back patio. The timestamp read 2:17 a.m. In the photo, we were clearly kissing. This isn't what it looks like, I started, but the words sounded pathetic even to me. What does it look like, Vesper? It was a moment. It didn't mean anything. He clicked to the next file. Text messages between Toby and me, including ones I thought I'd deleted. Thanks for an amazing night. Can't wait to see you again. You made me feel alive for the first time in years. My husband doesn't understand me like you do. Ethan, please let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for weeks? That you kissed another man and then came home and made me feel crazy for being suspicious? It was one kiss, one stupid, meaningless kiss. Was it meaningless when you texted him the next day? Was it meaningless when you told him your husband doesn't understand you? I felt tears starting, but they felt manipulative even to me. I was confused. I felt trapped and unhappy, and he was paying attention to me in a way you haven't in years. So this is my fault. That's not what I'm saying. It sounds like exactly what you're saying. His voice was still calm, which somehow made everything worse. You cheated on me, lied about it, made me think I was paranoid and controlling, and now you're telling me it's because I wasn't paying enough attention to you. Ethan, I love you. I love our family. It was a mistake. Which part was the mistake? Kissing him, lying about it, or getting caught? I couldn't answer that. He closed the laptop and looked at me directly. I've been to see a lawyer. The words hit me like ice water. What? I filed for separation yesterday. The papers will be served on Monday. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Ethan, please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can... You had weeks to tell me the truth, Vesper. Weeks to come clean and try to work on our marriage. Instead, you chose to lie, gaslight me, and make me feel like I was losing my mind. I was scared. I knew you'd overreact. Overreact? For the first time, his voice rose. My wife cheated on me, and then spent weeks making me think I was crazy for suspecting it. How exactly should I have reacted? It was one kiss. It was a betrayal. Of me, of our marriage, of our family. And then it was weeks of lies on top of that betrayal. I felt panic rising in my chest. What about Chloe? You can't break up our family over this. I'm not breaking up our family. You did that when you decided to cheat. I didn't cheat. It was just a kiss. And the emotional affair? The texting? The lies? What do you call that? I didn't have an answer. I've already spoken to Chloe's school, he continued. They have copies of the custody arrangement. I'll pick her up on weekdays. You get her on weekends until we can work out something more permanent. Custody arrangement? Ethan, you're being insane. We can fix this. How? By you lying some more? By pretending it never happened? By me pretending I can trust you again? Yes, people work through infidelity all the time. People work through infidelity when the cheating partner is remorseful and honest. You're neither. I am remorseful. You're sorry you got caught. That's different. A knock at the door interrupted us. Through the window, I could see a man in a suit holding an envelope. That would be the process server, Ethan said, standing up. Don't answer it. Please, Ethan, let's just talk about this. But he was already walking to the door. The man handed him the envelope and asked him to sign for it. Then he handed Ethan a second envelope. For Mrs. Marwood, he said. Ethan brought it to me, his face expressionless. Separation papers, custody agreement, and financial arrangements. You should probably get a lawyer. I stared at the envelope like it was a snake. This is really happening. This is really happening. I won't sign them. You don't have to. The court will proceed without your signature if necessary. Ethan, please. I'll do anything. I'll never see him again. I'll change jobs. It's too late, Vesper. It's not too late. We have 7 years together. We have a daughter. We had 7 years together. And yes, we have a daughter, which is why I'm doing this legally and properly instead of just throwing you out. The finality in his voice broke something inside me. You bastard. You self-righteous, controlling bastard. There it is, he said quietly, the real you. You're going to destroy our family because your ego can't handle that your wife found someone who actually pays attention to her. I'm protecting our family from someone who lies, cheats, and takes no responsibility for her actions. Chloe will hate you for this. Chloe will understand when she's older, and she'll have the security of knowing at least one of her parents can be trusted to tell the truth. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him understand how wrong he was. But looking at his face, calm, resolved, done, I realized that nothing I said would change his mind. He'd already given up on us, on me, and for the first time, I wondered if maybe he was right to. 3 weeks later, I sat in my lawyer's office staring at documents that would reshape my entire life. Margaret Chen, the attorney I'd hired, was explaining the terms of Ethan's separation agreement with professional detachment. He's being quite generous, actually, she said. Full custody during the school week, but you get every weekend and half of school holidays. Spousal support for 2 years, and he's not asking you to move out immediately. Generous? I laughed bitterly. He's taking my daughter away from me. Mrs. Marwood, given the evidence he's presented, many judges would award him full custody. The fact that he's agreeing to shared custody suggests he wants what's best for your daughter, not what's worst for you. I'd seen the evidence folder myself now. Margaret had gotten copies through discovery. It was devastating. Photos, text messages, witness statements from Daryl, and even some of my co-workers who'd seen me acting unusually secretive after that night. But the worst part was the statement from Chloe's teacher, documenting how my daughter's behavior had changed over the past month. More withdrawn, more anxious, asking if her parents were going to get divorced. Can we fight it? I asked. We can try, but I have to ask, is there anything else? Any other evidence he might have that we don't know about? I thought about Toby, about the few times we'd texted after that night, about the way I'd continued lying even after Ethan confronted me with proof. No, I said, nothing else. Margaret looked skeptical but nodded. Then we'll respond with a counter-offer. But Mrs. Marwood, I have to be honest, Your husband has been very thorough. His lawyer is good, his evidence is solid, and his requests are reasonable. Fighting this could get expensive and ugly, and you might end up with less than he's offering now. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house. I needed support, needed someone to tell me I wasn't the monster Ethan was making me out to be. My mother, Samantha, greeted me with a hug and immediately started making tea. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" "Terrible. Ethan's being completely unreasonable. Men can be so prideful," she said, settling beside me on the couch. "He'll come around once he realizes what he's losing." But my father, Gregory, looked less convinced. "Vesper, what exactly happened that night?" "I went out with friends, I danced, I had fun. Apparently that's a crime now." "That's all?" I hesitated just long enough for him to notice. "Dad, I'm your daughter. Do you really think I'd destroy my marriage over some random guy?" "I think you're not answering my question." "Gregory," my mother warned. "No, Samantha, our daughter's marriage is falling apart and I want to understand why." He turned back to me. "Did you cheat on Ethan?" The word hung in the air between us. I could lie. I'd gotten good at it over the past month. But looking at my father's face, I found I couldn't. "It was just a kiss," I whispered. The disappointment in his eyes was worse than Ethan's anger had been. "Oh, Vesper." "It didn't mean anything. I was drunk and confused and feeling neglected. It was a stupid mistake." "And you lied about it." "I was trying to protect everyone's feelings." "You were protecting yourself." My mother reached over and squeezed my hand. One mistake shouldn't end a marriage. Ethan's being too harsh. But my father shook his head. "It's not just the kiss, Samantha. It's the lying. The making him think he was crazy for being suspicious. The complete lack of accountability." "Whose side are you on?" I demanded. "I'm on the side of truth. And taking responsibility for your actions." "I am taking responsibility." "Are you? Because from what I can see, you're still blaming Ethan for your choices." I left their house feeling more alone than ever. Even my own father was turning against me. That evening, Ethan came to pick up Chloe for his custody week. She ran to him with obvious relief, and I realized with a sick feeling that she felt safer with him than with me. "Mommy, are you and Daddy getting divorced?" she asked as Ethan packed her backpack. "We're just taking some time apart, sweetheart." "Like Tommy's parents did. They got divorced and now Tommy only sees his dad on weekends." I looked at Ethan, hoping for support, but his expression was unreadable. "Sometimes grown-ups need space to figure things out," he said gently. "But no matter what happens, both Mommy and Daddy will always love you very much." After they left, I sat in my empty house and finally, truly understood what I'd lost. It wasn't just Ethan, though I was beginning to realize how much I'd taken his steady, quiet love for granted. It wasn't just my marriage, though the thought of being divorced at 32 terrified me. It was the respect of everyone who mattered to me. My colleagues, my parents, my friends. Even Jenna had been distant lately, uncomfortable with the drama I'd brought into her life. I'd traded all of it for one night of feeling desired by a stranger. One night of feeling alive and free and young again. And now, staring at the separation papers on my kitchen table, I finally understood what that freedom had actually cost me. My phone buzzed with a text from Toby. "Hey, heard things got complicated. Hope you're okay. Let me know if you want to talk." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. For the first time in weeks, I didn't lie to myself about what I was doing or why. I was finally ready to face the truth. I had destroyed my marriage, hurt my daughter, and lost the respect of everyone who mattered to me. And unlike what I'd told myself for so long, it really was all my fault.